So, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, there has been even more enticing matchups going down between top teams, some more rumors of potential trades have come about, and a ton of intriguing storylines are there to follow, so of course, we have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, PrizePicks. As the new NBA season continues on, PrizePicks is the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy to stay engaged on all of the excitement. All you have to do is pick between 2 and 6 players and the over or unders on their projections, and you can win up to 20 times your original entry. Choose between points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers made, fantasy points, and more, plus you can even make mixed sports entries, so if you happen to be a fan of football, baseball, soccer, or anything else, PrizePicks has you covered. When you play at PrizePicks, you're also not competing against anyone else, it's simply you versus the projections available. As for the picks that I'm looking at making for tonight's slate of games, I'm looking at Joel Embiid to score over 33.5 points, Jeremy Sohan to dish out over 2.5 assists, and Josh Hart to make over 0.5 threes. By going down to the link in the description of this video and using promo code REFERENCE when you sign up, you also get a deposit match bonus of up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Felix, and he says that the Golden State Warriors, despite their disappointing season, are still the team to beat in the Western Conference. The Warriors entered this season planning on undergoing a convincing title defense, but we're now at the midway point of the season, and their performances have often been far from convincing. They currently have a record around 500 and are in 6th place in the Western Conference standings, which is much closer to mediocre than it is to being a title contender, but by now we all recognize that the Warriors can get the benefit of the doubt in these situations. Early on, they were experimenting with bench lineups featuring tons of inexperienced younger guys, they weren't playing their main starters extended minutes in that period, and they were easing their way into the season. On top of that, they've also had quite a few key injuries they've had to deal with, as Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins missed extended periods of the season already. With all of that said though, these excuses don't give them a pass for their performances on the year completely, because even when they have been healthy, they've had some head-scratching losses, including when they got blown out by the severely shorthanded Phoenix Suns last week, and a loss to the Pistons just before that. They rank 16th on offense and 18th on defense on the year, which again is mediocre as it gets. But despite all of this, I still don't think it's crazy to call them the favorites. For one, no team in the Western Conference has really separated themselves into a tier of their own, and the standings see most of the teams incredibly close together. The Nuggets and Grizzlies are at the top of the table and could very reasonably be seen as the favorites, but neither come without flaws, as the Nuggets have defensive issues that they need to hammer out, and the Grizzlies don't have the best spacing in the world. The Pelicans arguably have the most star talent and were the most impressive early on in the season, but injuries to Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram have slowed them down, and then Luka Doncic has shown that he can carry a team deep, but he probably does need more help to threaten to go all the way. The Warriors are battle-tested and more experienced than anyone else, and if anybody can flip a switch, it's them. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Pittman, and he says that this will be Damian Lillard's last season in Portland. Damian Lillard still has 4 more years left on his supermax contract with the team, and year after year, people insist that Damian Lillard's time in Portland is approaching its end, only for Dame himself to deny those rumors and emphasize how he is completely committed to the grind and wants to stay in Portland for life. He's adamant that he can win in Portland, and while you have to admire his confidence and loyalty, at a certain point you have to accept reality. The Trailblazers have reached reached the conference finals with Lillard leading the way in the past, but the team broke up the duo of Dame and CJ McCollum last season because it was obvious that they weren't able to improve any more as things stood, and that trade left them with two choices. Some wanted the Blazers to blow it up and start a rebuild, but the front office and Dame himself wanted to try to retool in order to get back into contention. Bringing in players like Jeremy Grant and Gary Payton in the offseason, along with the emergence of Anthony Simons, gave them hope for the season, but they're currently in 11th place in the West, which obviously means that if the season ended today, they wouldn't even be making the play-in tournament. Luckily for them, the season doesn't end today, but the point still remains that they clearly aren't a team threatening to make any real noise in the playoffs if they even make it there. So at this point, it becomes in the team's best interest to at least consider starting over and blowing it up, even if Lillard continues to insist that he wants to stay. I just don't see a realistic path to contention for the Blazers in the Lillard era, which is unfortunate, but it's also the harsh truth. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from User, and they say that the Raptors need to blow it up despite the progress that they've been showing in recent games, because if they miss this opportunity, it could cost them in the long run. The Raptors were NBA champions just 4 years ago, and while there are still a few key contributors from that championship-winning team on the team now, such as Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, the reality is that the Raptors have been trending south over the past few seasons, and half of their roster's timeline clashes with the other half's timeline. The original take stated that the team has been better recently, but the team is still in 11th place in the Eastern Conference standings, and their ceiling is being a team that makes the play-in tournament at best. Pascal Siakam is playing the best basketball of his career though, so they would absolutely be able to get a nice haul of assets in return for him in a trade, and the Raptors are also more than likely not planning on re-signing Fred VanVleet in free agency anyway, so trading him rather than losing him for nothing is also the smart play in the long run. It's not easy for fans to have to say goodbye to the players that helped bring them to the mountaintop, but it's in the best interest in the long term of the franchise to rebuild now. I don't think they'll be able to sink low enough to land the #1 pick in Victor Wembanyama like the original take states, but this draft is loaded with talent at the top and isn't just a one-man show, so adding more youth to pair with Scotty Barnes is the best way to start fresh for themselves. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.